Welcome to the Jboy Show, hosted by Jake Crain, the fastest growing sports show in the nation.
I'm Coach Hugh Freeze.
This is Super Bowl champion Brandon Graham.
Hey, this is DJ Shockley, and you're watching.
And thanks for watching the Jboy Show.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for jumping in again. Whether you're watching on our brand new YouTube channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, or Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher. Like I say, I don't care where or how you're listening to us. We just appreciate you being here. Got another great guest. The brackets are out. Speaking of the brackets, you need to go sign up for the Jboy Bracket Challenge on ESPN. Download the app. There is no password. Just look up Jboy Bracket Challenge, JBOY. You guys know how to spell bracket, and we can give you some help if you need to learn how to spell challenge. But go ahead and sign up for that. Winner, first place, gets $100 free merchandise from the store and a shout out from Jboy. Second place, you get $50 of free merchandise from the store, the Jboy Show. And third place, you're fired. So I've been waiting to use that line probably for 3 months now. Little Glengarry, Glenn Ross. If you don't know what that is, just Google that and it'll make sense. But do want to give a shout out to betonline.ag while we're talking about it. Make sure you guys head over there. The online casino is always open. It's March Madness, baby. They're throwing bets left and right, parlays. Why Georgetown's going to be the 12-5 upset. Oops, I said it. There's some free money over Colorado. Make sure you head out over there as well, because they've got unbelievable bets for Major League Baseball, great prop bets. So head over to betonline.ag and sign up for their bracket challenge, but not before you sign up for ours. So without further ado, let's welcome in one of my favorite guests, really at the top of the leaderboard for repeat appearances. First time in video, though. Really excited. The ESPN and SEC Network's Mike Morgan. Mike, it's great to see you. Great to talk, man. We got some NCAA tournament. How's it going, my friend?
Number one, coffee is for closers. Jboy, just remember that. Coffee is for closers, and I don't drink coffee. Also, if I knew this was on video, I would have actually combed my hair and shaved.
You look great, Mike.
This is my my hostage video look. I actually had a few days to get some R&R down in Key West, and then I've got my basketball is still on the docket, but then I've got college baseball turning the attention to that too. And you know how big, particularly SEC baseball is. But I'm doing great. This is one of my favorite times of the year. I desperately missed it last year. I think a lot of people finally realized how much they missed it when they didn't have it. And now we are yearning for this March Madness tournament, and so glad that it is here after a tumultuous regular season, which, you know, I know, speaking from experience, I had games that were about to take place, and then 6 hours before we get on the air and do live TV, we get the phone call, yep, canceled due to COVID. That was common throughout so many months of the regular season. Knock on wood, that's not going to be a trend in this tournament.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it has been crazy for everybody involved. Glad we got here. And again, I think it's the greatest postseason event that there is in sports. I love it, regardless of who's in it, who's not. I get lost in it. Love filling out the brackets, something that I really enjoy. And again, you're right. You know, I guess you really don't realize how much you miss something until it's taken away. I think that's going to be something we see going into football season as well, hopefully with tailgating, full capacity at stadiums and stuff like that. And Mike, I want to jump right into it. And it's always about the draw. Again, you want your team playing as best as they possibly can, getting into the tournament, but just looking at it, and there's always going to be somebody with a gripe. That's how it works when you have 64 teams. But what did you think about the SEC getting 6 teams in? Got no qualm with it. Don't think Ole Miss deserved to be in, especially after losing that game against Vanderbilt toward the end of the regular season and not making a run at all in the SEC tournament. Just looking at the SEC teams that got in the draws, just kind of your overarching Mike Morgan, let's be the architect in the matrix type view of it.
Yeah, well, I've been calling this for a while, and you know me, Look, I love the Southeastern Conference. I'm an SEC grad. I've been covering the conference since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, but I'm also going to keep it real. This was a good year for SEC basketball. It's 21 bids now over a 3-year span. That's 7 a year. That is a high watermark for the conference. And I've seen the low points and I've seen the high points, but right now the SEC has never been healthier top to bottom. Keep in mind, we're talking about 6 or 7 bids. And without question, Kentucky wasn't even one of the better teams in the league. And as good as Florida, you know, they're getting in. but they're not one of the top 3 teams in the league. That says growth. That says you don't have to rely on the same 2 teams like they had been for so many years in the Southeastern Conference. The Big 12 kind of has been doing that with Kansas, but now all of a sudden, oh my goodness, you got Baylor, you got Oklahoma State. That's the health of a league, not just relying on the same 2 teams. Look, I've talked about this on Feinbaum and other shows 2-3 weeks ago. This way, people were coming on, and I'm sure maybe one of your guests said it. With all due respect, I think it's a silly cliche. Anybody can win the SEC tournament. It's up for grabs. No, it wasn't. This was clearly a have and have not league this year. The top 6 teams were that good. The bottom half of the league was not nearly as good. And so what do we have? Predictability, in my estimation. I told you there were going to be a bunch of big upsets. The top 4 seeds advanced. And we had Alabama cutting down the nets. They were the best team all year. I thought Arkansas had a chance at it, but they ran into a red-hot LSU team, which I think could do damage in the big dance. Ole Miss, I love Kermit Davis. I would have loved to seen them gone, and I did a couple of their games when they were all of a sudden relevant and on the bubble watch. But then they drop. You mentioned the Vanderbilt game, and I'll circle another one. It was right after the game that I had where I think they went on the road and beat Florida. And that was they go home against Mississippi State, and they drop that game.
Yeah.
So those 2 games, if you're going to just flip the script on one of them, they're in. But you had 2 disappointing losses in the same week, and I think that set the tone where they had too much work to do. And again, in a field that had 7 really good teams in the SEC tournament. So they fall short. And I had no problem with it. If you're trying to get Ole Miss in, it's because you're really trying to see, you want them to get in. You're looking for every number you can to justify it. But I don't think they got screwed by any stretch.
Yeah, me either. And I think Ole Miss fans will tell you that. You say you got to win the games you got to win. I know Vanderbilt was playing good. You got to win that game.
Right.
You got to win that game, and you got to make a run the SEC tournament. I mean, we had Joe Lenardi on here a little while ago, and he really laid it out. This is what Ole Miss has to do, and they didn't do it. And so you really don't have a gripe. You got to win in March. But I want to get a little specific, and we'll start with the team that won the SEC tournament. I agree with you. Looking at the conference, I don't think there is an elite team in the SEC, but I think from a parity standpoint, from a, like you said, depth standpoint, they're really getting there. I think next year the SEC could have one of their best years in college basketball. And you used a term that I think is the greatest way to put it: the health of the league. It has never been better. The future has never been brighter. I still say 3 to 5 years from now, I think the SEC is going to be one of the top basketball conferences in the country when they make their mind up, just like they did in baseball, which you brought up. We all know in football as well. You can go down the list: equestrian, softball, really any sport. Once the SEC decides they want to take over, it's a matter of when, not if. But let's start with Alabama. They get a 2 seed, the highest 2 seed in the tournament. Like you said, they ran through the SEC tournament. It was a heck of a game against LSU. Watching that one, even though it wasn't pretty at times, there were some guys scoring the basketball. But they get Iona, the Gales, coached by Rick Pitino, an upset for Iona to get through their tournament and get in the NCAA. I don't see a big problem with Alabama playing them. And I always go back to, you just got to get through the first one. They don't need to be pressing, hey, we're finally in the NCAA tournament. They've got to keep playing the way that they've been playing. What do you think about that game and Alabama's chances moving forward? Because you look at that region, they got Michigan. You got obviously a hot LSU team. You got Texas, which has been on fire, Florida State. This isn't going to be a walk in the park to the Elite Eight.
No, it's not. But I will say this. I think a combination of how good Alabama is and the draw, I think they have the best chance of going far. I'm not in love with Arkansas's draw. I'm not in love with Tennessee's. I'm not in love with Florida's. I think the best draw / talent / the way they're playing gives me the most optimistic look for 2 teams. One will not surprise you in Alabama. One might, and that's LSU. Because I think LSU could upset Michigan in a second-round game. I really do. So I like what came out for those 2 teams. So let me give one caveat for Bama, and it wasn't talked about a whole lot during the SEC tournament. That injury to Joshua Primo, that's a big deal.
That's a big injury.
I don't think people because they wound up winning it anyway, and because the focal point of that team, obviously the face of that team is Herbert Jones. People know about Petty. People know about Shackelford. Joshua Primo, a 6'6" freshman dynamo, he is a guy that doesn't need the 3 ball to get you buckets when you need to. And I know, talking to Nate Oates, That is one of his favorite players long term, and he really wants to get him back from that knee injury. So I'm waiting for updates on that. I haven't heard much. I think there are two key injuries as we turn it forward to this tournament. The other one, of course, is Fulkerson at Tennessee, concussion protocol. They're not the same team without him. They already struggle offensively a lot. And so I really would like to know the status of John Fulkerson when projecting where Tennessee goes. But if you were to ask me, when I looked at that bracket and kind of the two draws that I felt the best about, it would have been Alabama. It would have been LSU. For Arkansas, I'm still high on Arkansas, but my goodness, a second-round game against a Texas Tech team with Mac McClung, that's scary to me. Tennessee, a second-round game against Oklahoma State and the number one pick in the draft in Cunningham. That's a scary one as well. And, Florida's been so erratic here of late. They could wind up playing Ohio State in the second round, and Missouri has not been playing their best basketball. They got to go up against Oklahoma in the first game. If they somehow win it, then they got Gonzaga, everybody's favorite to win it all in the second round. So I don't like those draws. I'm much more preferential to Alabama and LSU's draws.
Yeah, and I agree with you. You look at, and I'll be honest with you, when I look at Florida and Virginia Tech, Virginia Tech's been playing really good. They just haven't got to play a lot because of COVID. If Trey Mann isn't 100% on his game against Virginia Tech, I would not be surprised to watch Virginia Tech win this game. You bring up Tennessee without Fulkerson. Oregon State just ran through the Pac-12 tournament. They're playing hot at the right time. I don't know if they've got enough to beat Tennessee in that first round, because you look at Keon Johnson's a guy that really shined with Fulkerson out. His mid-range game, his driving ability, shoot, even banked one in from three. Springer is got to play unbelievable, but Yves Pons has got to start showing up. Eventually, he's got to start showing up offensively. He hit a big three late in their game against Alabama, but just from a down low, and again, he's going to get his blocks because that's who he is, but offensively, they have got to find a way to start playing inside out like Rick Barnes has, because they're not going to have a long say. And I'm going to tell you this, I'm high on LSU in the way they're playing. And I think one of their toughest games is going to be against St. Bonaventure. Mm-hmm. They're a team that plays defense very well. They're veteran. They've won big games. You look at overall what LSU has. Cam Thomas has to be hot. They got absolutely beat to sleep on the offensive glass by Alabama. Really the reason, in my opinion, that Alabama won the game. You look at how many second chance points they have, and they're already scary offensively. But the Bonnies are 16-4. They're a 9 seed. LSU's an 8. I think LSU will upset Michigan if they get past St. Bonaventure, but they've got to get past St. Bonaventure. Cam Thomas has got to continue to play hot. That game to me is one that's a little scary at that 8-9, Mike, as well as LSU's playing.
Yeah, if we were talking about teams as stocks, LSU's like the most volatile, right?
Yeah.
Because you got 3 pros, maybe 4 if you include Days on offense. But we all know there are times they don't defend. We all know there are times, as you mentioned, they're not a great rebounding team despite all that athleticism. I need to see the want to, but I saw it in this SEC tournament. They very easily could have won that game against Alabama. They had a tip in at the last second that is halfway down and pops out. Yeah. What I see from LSU now is they got their wake-up call. They're so uber talented that they can kind of not play at 100% and still beat a lot of people because they have elite offense. I'm telling you, that trio is as good as any trio,
especially when Watford's
in college
playing
basketball.
Good. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Watford is just such a unique player at 6'9", so incredibly skilled. Now, he doesn't defend anybody, but he can score. Javonte Smart can be a deadly three-point shooter, and he's such a good distributor, very unselfish for a guy of his credentials. And Cam Thomas is smooth as silk shooting the jumper and has a knack of drawing fouls doing so. So I just think I saw what I wanted to out of LSU. They're never going to be like a defensive juggernaut, but just give me some effort and just be competent enough to do so. And I saw that throughout the SEC tournament, which lends me to the idea that they could be a second weekend team. I think Alabama, second weekend team. Florida, I hate the draw. Mike Young, to me, I remember him at Wofford, great coach. Virginia Tech, great coach. That is a very dangerous 7-10 matchup. I wouldn't be surprised if Virginia Tech's even favored in Vegas. I haven't seen the lines. And then, of course, Ohio State waiting for him in the second round if they get there. And Missouri's another kind of volatile stock because there's a lot of things to like about Missouri. I like Konzo Martin. I like the way that they play so unselfish. I love Drew Smith. I like Jeremiah Tillman. They do defend. They can play in the half court. They are old, but they're not uber talented. And when they run into very talented teams, they struggle. So could they win a game or two? Yes. Could they get knocked out in the first round? Yes.
Yeah, I think it all runs through Tillman. It's amazing when he plays good, how much better Pinson plays, because Drew Smith is the guy that kind of keeps the kitchen together. I'm going to facilitate it. I'm going to hit our free throws, but I agree with you. I don't think they are top end talented or have a guy that we can sit here and say, all right, listen, it's going to be a rock fight. You versus you. We're going to find out, this is our guy versus your guy. It's going to be Pinson at the top.
I don't think they have a pro on the roster, Jake. I don't. I would say.
Look, I don't think you're crazy saying that. I think Pinson may get a chance. Drew Smith won't. Tillman has just – it shocked me because Tillman was playing so well there for a stretch. And then it just kind of not fell off the cliff, but he really hasn't been the same guy. I think Oklahoma's going to get him round one. Like you said, if for some reason they were to survive that, Gonzaga would take him in the high school and shove him right in the locker. But Gonzaga's, done that to a lot of people. But, looking and I want to stay in the SEC. And it's before we do, though, I got to give a shout out to our sponsors at eBay. Head over to ebay.com/sneakers today. Again, you're watching March Madness. These guys are running around. Why are they able to stop and start so fast? They have great shoes and a really great sneakers. So if you're looking for great sneakers, head over to ebay.com/sneakers today. Got a whole team of authenticators going to make sure everything's right. The logo, the tag, the box is what you want, the tongue, the sole, all that stuff. So head over to ebay.com/sneakers today and tell them Jboy sent you. We're here with Mike Morgan from ESPN, the SEC Network, one of my favorite guests to get on here, talking some NCAA tournament. And I want to get back to that. But for a second, Mike, I want to talk about Auburn. You look, they make a Final Four run a couple of years ago, end up, 25-9, looking good going into the tournament before it gets canceled. Now you look across the street, Nate Oates has Alabama as a 2 seed, just ran through the SEC regular season, the SEC tournament championship, looking to make some noise in March. We'll see how they do in the tournament. But if you're Bruce Pearl at Auburn, the dominance in state and the bells and whistles better start going off because it's about to be a fist fight in the state of Alabama.
It's starting to feel a little bit, and I was just a kid, but again, I was a weird kid. I wasn't watching cartoons. I was watching games.
Same way.
And I remember watching Wimp Sanderson, Sonny Smith teams go at it. Alabama, that was like the pinnacle of college basketball in the state of Alabama. And then since then, they went through a couple of decades of some really rough ball with a few blips here and there. Cliff Ellis, a couple of magical years. Coach Gottfried got to 5 straight tournaments. But outside of that, there was some rough goes of it. And I think apathy started to set in with 2 football schools. That's not the case now. And I love what Nate Oates said in the post game after beating LSU for the title. He said, look, we're all about championships at Alabama. It doesn't matter the sport. That's the mentality at Auburn, too. Who would have thought Auburn was going to go to a Final Four after some of the dreadful basketball that they had on the Plains? Look, Bruce Pearl, I had him in his final regular season game. And, nowadays, again, we don't meet with coaches. We talk on Zoom calls. He was very philosophical. Of course, that was the day he got his 600th career win. But he said, Mike, here's the deal. The punishment that we self-imposed, that's not a small deal. Because when you tell your team at the beginning of the year, hey, guys, no matter what you do, you're not playing in the SEC tournament, you're not playing in the NCAA tournament. So you can never push that button like late in a game for some extra motivation. Hey, guys, if you want to play in the big dance, we need to make some shots here. We need to do this. They all knew they're not going. So needless to say, they had a down year. And then you had Shareef Cooper. He's out, then he's in, then he's out with injury. This was one of those years where it just wasn't meant to be with Auburn. I will say this, though. They got a ridiculously good recruiting class coming in. They've got some good pieces. I sincerely doubt Shareef Cooper, if all the projections have him still going first round, that he comes back. His father's an agent. The money is so good in the NBA right now. But even without him, I would bet money that Auburn will be back in the NCAA tournament next year with a healthy roster and with no sanctions and with Bruce Pearl roaming those sidelines. He's that good of a coach.
Yeah, without a doubt. And of course, again, it's I think some Auburn fans got spoiled of, all right, we're going to win 25 games a year and we're going to go to the Final Four all the time. Then you self-impose the penalty, but you're exactly right, Mike. And you can sit here and try and hype them up and get everybody excited, but deep down the kids know. They know they're not going to the tournament. You can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. Then it's all right, let's get ready for next year. You bring up the recruiting class. Jabari Smith is an absolute unicorn. I think he's going to be one of the top players in the SEC when he steps on campus. Losing Powell hurt obviously kind of came out of nowhere, and they need some good news. Auburn needs some good news in basketball, and I think Scoot Henderson's going to give it to him soon. But did not mean to digress. Just wanted your thoughts on that. But as we're winding down here, looking at the tournament in whole, Mike, and, again, the amount of brackets people can fill out on ESPN, you can have a lot of winners and a lot of champions and stuff like that. But do you think a team outside of Gonzaga or Baylor is going to – so if I gave you Gonzaga and Baylor and then the field, who are you taking?
Gonzaga and Baylor.
You're a smart man, Mike Morgan. Start calling you JP Morgan over here.
Yeah, first off, if you gave me Gonzaga or the field, I'd be tempted to take Gonzaga. But then you're going to throw in Baylor as well. Look, Illinois is a team that's good enough to win it most years. I love their roster. I loved Michigan before the key.
Yeah, tough break.
Yeah, before the key injury there. Look, there's some really good teams in this tournament. But much like I didn't fall prey to the cliche for the SEC tournament where anybody can win it, it's COVID, and so everything is upside down. No, it's really not. As much as COVID has disrupted everything, the top teams that we thought coming into the season have played like the top teams. And the middle teams have been inconsistent. And that, to me, is the story. You got to win 6 games to win this thing. So I can't pick an inconsistent team to all of a sudden win the whole thing. And I just think Gonzaga is a cut above the rest. I don't put Baylor far behind them, and I do love Illinois. But outside of that, I don't see another team that's truly capable of winning 6 consecutive games in this gauntlet. And so, yes, I would take your bet, and I would take Gonzaga and Baylor.
And again, I think Baylor, I've picked them on multiple occasions. Gonzaga would be the first team to go undefeated since Indiana and Bob Knight did it so many years ago. But and again, Mike, you don't have to answer this. I've got a couple upsets, really one that I'm picking early, and I want to get this on tape early. Right. So, if we ever got to go back to it, Georgia Tech is beating Illinois in the second round of the NCAA tournament. I'm going to say it again. Georgia Tech is beating Illinois in the second round of the tournament. I love what they're doing over there with Josh Pastner and Georgia Tech. Love the way they play defense. Is there one Mike Morgan that you look at, the Mike Morgan special, the blue plate, baby? Is there one that kind of stands out to you right now? And again, if you want to take some time, obviously you'll be back and we can get it done before. But is there one you think that may kind of shock people? And don't give me Georgetown, Colorado. Come on, Mike.
No, that's not even a major upset at all. First off, I love Pastner. I've known him since he was a coach at Memphis. You will not find a nicer human being in big-time college basketball. And Alvarado is one of my favorite players in this entire tournament. Called some of his games when he was a freshman there. And, again, unheralded. That's what Josh has had. Unlike his days at Memphis, at Georgia Tech, he's had to, in a lot of ways, get that diamond in the rough. He hasn't been pulling in McDonald's All-Americans. Georgia Tech has been somewhat irrelevant, quite frankly, for a while now. But they are a good story, and he's one of my favorite players. You know what? As I look at this, and I haven't gone on record with a whole lot of upsets yet. I haven't even filled out a bracket yet. I usually take a couple days. Don't sleep on Liberty as a 13 over the 4 Oklahoma State. Do not. I love their coach.
Yeah.
I love the way they play. This is not their first rodeo. They are not strangers to the big dance or to the postseason. If you're looking at a 13-4 type, I know everybody loves a 12-5, but I look at for 13-4. So I think we've had a 13 over a 4 7 out of the last 10 years. So don't just look for 12-5. Look for 13-4 games if you're trying to find that upset that's going to help you win a bracket or something like that. That's the first one that comes to mind. There are some Cal Santa Barbara over Creighton as a 12-5. I don't even know how big of an upset that'd be in Vegas, but from a 12-5 standpoint, it is. And I certainly think the Gauchos could knock down Creighton. I did not like what I saw out of Creighton against Georgetown in that championship game. Kudos to Pat Ewing and the Hoyas, but I thought Creighton really looked lackluster in that game. And UCSB is one of those big West teams that nobody knows anything about until they get to the tournament. You watch their style of play. You know, San Diego State used to be that kind of team that nobody knew anything about, and then all of a sudden they started having tournament success, and now everybody knows about them. But that'd be another one that I'd have my eye out for.
Yeah, and again, I'm just so happy that we're able to even talk about this. Like I said, I think it's the greatest postseason sporting event there is in sports. Mike Morgan, great as usual, man. Got you in video. We're going to get you here in the studio here soon on set. We'll be breaking down some more college basketball. I know you're as jacked as I am to watch it. And it's coming soon this week. Remember, guys, the first round, it's not on Thursday anymore. So don't call into work sick on Thursday and blow your off day.
Just use it on Monday.
Exactly. Be smart. Let's make the weekend longer, especially if you get out early on Friday. That's a little tip from Jboy and Mike Morgan there. Mike, tell everybody about your podcast too as well with JC, where they can find you on social media, because, man, I love keeping up with it.
Absolutely. JC and Morgan available on every platform, free of charge. We just did an interview with Ryan McGee of ESPN. Great stuff with him last week. We had Danny Cannell, Tony Barnhart the last few weeks. We've gone a lot more long-form interviews here, especially with the football season over. Less chatter about things going on because, quite frankly, it's been a dead period. Sometimes no news is good news. So we'll continue to do that and have different folks to bat around some college football because, as we all know, Jake, there is never a day off out of the 365 we have to talk some college football.
No, there's never a day off, and that's the best part about it. It's evergreen. We're going to keep happening. Spring practice is starting. We'll get you back to talk that as well because, again, like you said, it's a 365-day-a-year season, and that's why we love it. But, Mike, I appreciate it, brother. We'll talk soon. Appreciate you guys joining us as well. It's been another edition of the Jboy Show. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. We appreciate you joining us. Get ready for the madness, baby. It's March. It's been another edition of the Jboy Show. And like Georgetown's opponent in round one, I'm going, gone.
The Jboy Show is produced by David Cohn, Technical Director Dave Hammock, Creative Director David Culbertson, Audio Engineer Feyzan Shareef, Production Assistants Blaine Crain and Kyle Orr, Executive Producers Jake Crain, Vince Thompson, Steve Chamberlain, and David Cohn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, thejboyshow.com, for updates regarding our newest apparel and merch designs. Win the water cooler with the Jboy Show.